So I realized that I have been very quiet about gender for like an entire year. And that's because I've moved to a new house, I've set up this awesome filming studio, and I've been reading lots of books, like this one about lettuce. And we have had a 4-year-old who has been in and out of our care. She has been very adorable, but also very time-consuming. I'm going to protect her identity for her sake, but here is a shot of her pretending to be a ghost. But today, let's talk about something a tad less adorable, and that is pride flags in public institutions. The Waterloo Catholic District School Board just had a blowout over this, and it's the exact same argument we see every few months in school boards everywhere. Do we raise the pride flag, or do we ban the pride flag? As though somehow those are the only two choices available to us. Pride flags and transgender symbolism are one of the topics I get asked to comment about the most in radio and television interviews. And it just keeps coming back because people on both political extremes are either so in love with this particular symbol or so against it that they've forgotten how liberalism works. Like seriously, they either believe every institution should be beholden to promoting pride unconditionally, or they despise everything it represents and want it to be banned in its entirety. And those angry few on the periphery happen to be the loud voices we keep hearing, even though like 90% of the population sits somewhere in the middle. But here's the deal. Not flying a specific flag does not automatically mean you oppose what that flag stands for. Those are not the same thing at all. If I walk around without a pride symbol on my shirt, like I am right now, that does not mean I'm anti-LGBT. The same way that not wearing a cross doesn't make you anti-Christian, because the absence of a symbol means absolutely nothing at all. And it would be ludicrous to read anything into that. You can't judge a book by its cover, especially if that cover is a blank page. Full disclosure, I actually haven't read the lettuce book at all yet, but I really loved the cover, and so here I'm a hypocrite. But speaking of judging a book by its cover, many people just presume I'm pro-pride flag because I happen to be trans. When in reality, I'm meh pride flag. I think it's kind of tacky, way too commercialized, and often tossed around for virtue signaling. And even more than that, I worry we've turned it into an obligatory decoration rather than an expression of genuine support. Case in point, I once watched a mayor raise a municipal pride flag immediately after using gay slurs in the hallway on the way down from his office. Clearly, the flag in that city hall didn't make the workplace magically inclusive. But that's exactly what happens when symbols are mandated and overused. They lose any meaning they originally had, like the wet floor signs we're accustomed to ignoring because they're almost always found blocking our path on a dry hallway. Using symbolism sparingly and with discretion is literally required to convey meaning. And if we can't choose not to have it, then it means nothing at all. Side note, in addition to assuming I'm pro-pride, I'm also often assumed to be anti-Christian because I'm trans. Turns out that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, I'll be on stage at the Exiles Conference in Minneapolis next week to discuss the intersection of transgender matters in the church with some of my favorite Christian authors like Preston Sprinkle and Mark Yarhouse. But back to pride flags in schools. Public institutions have to tread carefully because their role is to be open, inclusive, and neutral to everyone's beliefs. They're supposed to be safe spaces for all, including folk who see the pride flag as a sign of love and acceptance and those who interpret it differently. Because here's the thing. When a school displays a pride flag, it implies that there is pride and dignity in being gay. I don't personally disagree with that sentiment, but it happens to be an ideological judgment. And some families, especially some religious families, like the ones we might find in the Catholic School Board, they don't share that ideological position. The best way to uphold the human rights protections of both LGBT individuals and religious individuals is to minimize divisive symbolism and enforce anti-discrimination policies across the board. Think about the public school system pre-1960s. Crosses on the walls, prayers every morning. Eventually, we said, hey, maybe we shouldn't force everyone into one faith tradition. So we removed the cross in the classroom, but we didn't ban personal religious expression. We basically said, we can talk about Christianity, Judaism, and Islam objectively, without deciding that everyone in school must be a Christian, a Jew, or a Muslim. And what that shift did was created a neutral environment while still allowing students to wear their own crosses and observe their own beliefs. And that's basically what Trustee Conrad Stanley is proposing for the Waterloo Catholic District School Board, limiting official flags to just the Canadian flag, the Ontario flag, and the board's own. No pride, no Black Lives Matters, no Confederate flag, no MAGA banner. But of course, that doesn't mean that students cannot express themselves. I spoke to Trustee Stanley and he told me that he will be amending the motion to clarify this because it's not meant to take away a student's right to their own non-hateful expression. Yes, some people are going to push back because they insist on equating the removal of a pride flag with removing acceptance. But you can have an accepting environment where discrimination isn't tolerated without requiring a specific ideological symbol on the wall. Supporters of pride side get to celebrate their identities, opponents get to maintain their moral views, and nobody feels forced to champion something that conflicts with their beliefs. In other words, it's liberalism in action. Allow every viewpoint as long as nobody is flirting with hate. And there we have it. Another day, another controversy about flags. But maybe, just maybe, if we remember that not hoisting a symbol doesn't equate attacking the symbol, we can avoid these endless battles and maybe get back to convincing 4-year-old ghosts that they can be people too.